Hello, welcome back to Roadwarden. I'm so excited to get back into this game, despite how absolutely tired from today's work I am. Let's jump right back into it. So, currently, our main missions at the moment are still to find Orentius, who should be somewhere to the east over here. We're not 100% sure. Still need to find the last missing hunter, which should be over here as well. We also need to deal with all the undead in White Marshes. But that's going to require some convincing of some of the other tribes. I believe Gale Rocks will fight the undead with Howler's Dell. But we also want one other tribe. Creeks won't. They won't touch it. Old Pagos just got over the plague, which we did heal. We did heal that plague. And Steep House is burnt to the ground. So, hopefully this hidden tribe off in the mountains will help us as well. Either that or we convince the bandit camp to help us out. You notice a bunch of large paw prints both on the road and around it. It's the spot where I can move east to the tribe of the Green Mountain. You don't see any way to move east. If there's any path you could take, it's completely overgrown. Thorny bushes won't allow you to move without harm, and even if you could, you wouldn't leave Sodal behind. The withering dust will get you through these bushes. You put on your thick leather gloves, then spread the dust beneath the plants. You draw water from the river with a wooden bowl and sprinkle it over the poison. You don't need to wait long. The yellow smoke appears immediately, so you step away and cover your mouth and nose. The sizzling bush starts to shake, losing its twigs and leaves. In less than a minute, you throw the plant into the stream, then end the job with your axe. That was easy. I had the remaining poison in my bags. Sodal peacefully chews the grass, enjoying the sun on its back, ready to take a nap. You will travel onwards. It wouldn't be wise to ride through a lush meadow. There are animal pits and molehills, and the ground is covered with old roots, rocks and mounds. Putting more weight on Sodal could turn any stumble into a broken leg. You lead it by the reins and keep looking around. Such lands are common hunted ground for dragonlings, or cats that sneak in the grass. Finally, you reach a narrow game trail. The rest of the journey should be easier. Follow it. The trail turns to a wider path and leads you to a rocky hill. Sodal quenches its thirst, so you fill up your water skin. The trees by the road still bear signs of past trimming, giving shadow to old herbal patches now overgrown. There's a bunch of edible leaves in sight, though all the vegetables are already dug out by rabbits, and most of the apples have fallen on the ground. You glance at the cave's entrance and let out a sigh at the sight of bones. You could hardly squeeze inside. Fortunately, the path forward is clear. Pretty good on food at the moment. Yeah, I've got supplies. A quick save and we head off to the cave. You prepare a torch, the rope, your gloves. You can't get too far away without putting Sodal in danger, so you don't take any food. Good to check if I can get inside with my gambeson on. You should be able to squeeze in. A ghastly screech cuts the air. You step back, dropping a part of your equipment. A creature is running at you. Grab my axe. The monster looks like a furless grey wrinkled human with stunningly long limbs. You see its bones, as if the skin hardly contains the guts. In the blink of an eye, it squeezes through the entrance, bending in ways that seem impossible to you. You've disturbed the lair of a corpse eater. Alright, let's see what our violence attributes gives us. It's fast, I can't give it an opportunity to get close. Jump away and take a wide swing. Okay, we'll try that. The creature jumps at you right away with arms and legs spread out in a lethal hug, and you're too slow to react. Its arms cling to your own, pushing them along your sides. The legs clutch at your hips. You barely stand straight as it instantly tears through the gambeson on your back with its claws. The terrible stench doesn't help you one bit. Okay, so it's grappling me, eh? Run at the rocks to crush its shell. You let out a scream and charge the wall, making the monster's back hit it first. It lets out a terrified shriek. Its grasp weakens, you set yourself free. No more tricks. Take a new stance and raise my blade. I'm ready now. Ooh, you barely take a breath and the creature is already dashing towards you. You jump aside, taking a swing at its back, but not only it ducks beneath your blade, its claws reach your abdomen and pierces through your gambeson. Shit. There goes my entire gambeson at the start of the journey. But it doesn't reach your flesh. It gives you enough time to return the blow. You send it into the ground with a deep wound, and it lands with a thud, crying in pain. It crawls away, flailing its arms in dread. Finish it off. You catch up with it as it turns on its back. You sink the blade in its torso, once, twice more, until it stops moving. Its raised arms stay still for a moment, then rest on the grass. The dark nails, longer than the rest of its hand, lie still. Your breath slows down. The carcass smells of unwashed sweat and rotting flesh. I wonder if we can do that better. I kind of want my gambeson to be in a better shape. Grab X. Okay. The thing is, this thing's really, really quick. Jump forward. The beast also leaps forward, with arms and legs spread out in a lethal hug. Your axe gives you the crucial finger length of an advantage. The blood bursts from the creature's chest and it falls on the ground, crawls away, flailing its arms in dread. Finish it off. Jeez. Just choose the correct answer, dumb fuck. Alright. That worked out alright. Take a closer look at the dead corpse eater. The grey wrinkled skin resembles that of an old human, but it's hairless and clings tautly to the bones, especially the ribs. Torso is short, rectangular. The large eyes and long limbs resemble no other monster you've seen, not even an ape. You consider cutting the shell further, but you don't know where to start. You've never seen someone owning a ghoul's trophy, or putting it into a stew would poison an entire tavern. The red stained grass stinks like rotten eggs. You could collect some of the warm fluid. It's rare, maybe valuable to an unusual soul. Burn it without delay. You spend some time gathering dry sticks and grass and throwing them at the carcass from as far as it takes to avoid the stench of blood. You prepare the worst torch you have, set the oil on fire, and add it to the small pile. Then head to the stream to wash your blade. You're now part of the endless battle between rites churches and corpse eaters. Alright, return to the cave. The ceiling is short, but you can stand upright. The corridors lead to deeper parts of the flooded chamber, but unlike the corpse eater, you can't squeeze through them. You spot no human skulls or limbs among the bones, even though there are scraps of old mouldering plants and tunics, as well as some odds and ends that belong to victims: a comb, an old wooden club, a hood, a leather belt. Thankfully, the corpse eater has cleaned up every scrap of flesh, so there's no stench of rotting meat. Search the area and look for anything valuable. You return to Sodal and unpack a candle in your tinderbox, then sit on the ground and prepare the flint and linen charcloth. Decades ago, before the southern invasion, people used fire strikers. Yes, we've had that same bit of text multiple times. You put on your gloves and look underneath the remains, then into the corners. Your patience is rewarded once you spot a glitter in one of the pools. You pull it closer with a stick and find a knife with a broken blade made of steel. It carries no signs of rust yet. You consider throwing it away, but the handle is made of polished bone that was engraved with shapes of creepers and flowers. You think about your conversation with Eudocia. This could have belonged to Admon, and is likely still worth a coin or two. Take it outside. Okay. Alright, let's move on then. I don't really need to clean myself. Should be fine as is. The grand brown and grey mountains are blocking the horizon, and you doubt the path is going to reach the snow-covered peaks. Without trees and clouds blocking your view, you're like an ant approaching a fortress. Wonder what kind of beasts hide among the rocks. The unbodied keeper of the garden is standing still, with a dark cloak on their shoulders and an eyeless face observing the woodlands. Their club, more than 3 times as tall as you are, is made of a single piece of rock and could squash you by simply collapsing, without anyone's will. A set of stairs lead to a convenient corridor-like ravine. The gentle wind carries no shouts or scent of blood. I approach the statue. The statue's face has no features, and the shell ends with the neck, revealing a dark space instead of a torso. You lean closer and notice the coarseness of black and grey gritstone, and how bitten by time it is. Both the figure and the socle are stained with white guano. Still, it's extraordinary work. The weight of the giant doesn't rest on its club, but rather on the boots, which are cleverly attached to the cloak. Sooner or later, something will break, most likely the arms. Without them, the statue won't hold its stance. If it reacts to my actions, what do you try to do? Okay, should I talk? You introduce yourself and have a chat with the statue. It remains the same. Nothing else. Pray. Try to utter a simple prayer, but as a minute goes by and you shift your weight from one leg to another, you struggle to focus. Climb? Okay, no. Dip away. We'll continue onwards then. We don't really know what to do with this statue. Seeing how steep this part of the road gets, you dismount. It will be safer for you to get a bit tired now than to push Sodal into the verge of fatigue. You take a sip of water and start climbing. The road is winding and narrow, but it would fit a single wagon if it wasn't for the sporadic rocks and boulders blocking the path. Some of the larger ones are resting just in the middle, and as you look above, you struggle to recognize where they come from. They were placed here on purpose. The strong wind, the wooden bridge connecting the rock ledges, the unusual terrain. You can't pay attention to any of that now. A creature larger than a bear steps away from its nest, then screeches at you through its sharp, black-tipped, golden eagle-like beak. It spreads its wings, as wide as a barn gate. You stay in your saddle. Can I eat food right now? No. Fix it. Examine the beast. Its movements are deliberate and confident. It makes a tiger-like leap, then stands still like a statue, while the brown, white and yellow feathers covering the front half of its shell are still dancing with the wind. The wings hinder your sight, so you spot only glimpses of the cat-like claws and the clay-like fur. Its large chest rises and falls slowly. The noble griffin's yellow eyes speak only of violence. Its curved beak is longer than your forearm, and the talons on its front paws are like sickles. You don't doubt that its cruel promises may not only be fulfilled, but are a certainty. A single human with but a simple blade and crossbow would never survive clashing with a monstrosity of this size. You don't have more time to mull over it. The beast leaps towards the rock face. After it flaps its wings, the gust of wind brushes your hair. Ooh, it just buggered off. Cool. That's great. The winds, cold sweat, and altitude make you want to simultaneously take off your cloak and put on some heavier clothes. At least Sodal doesn't seem to care. You take deeper breaths. The path ahead seems gentler. There are no more trees, and you're surrounded by grasses, pebbles, sporadic bushes. You look down at the herbs gathering around the stream, the rustling leaves, and the birds, large and small, flying above the forests of the peninsula. From here, everything seems calm. Too bad most people will never catch such a view. A loud screech reaches you from up the path, where at the top of a crag you see a massive saurian standing on 4 limbs. It's displaying proudly its dark green skin, with a bit brighter stomach and orange stripes on its legs and eyebrows, as well as the tail, which is swinging left and right. The size of the monster makes you stop, but before you turn around you realize there's a short woman riding on its back, dressed in a red gambeson and an iron helmet with green pants that blend in with her mount. Can't see the details of her here, but she's not attacking you just yet, resting the blunt edge of her spear on the ground. Her other hand holds the reins, attached to a bridle, quote unquote, put on the monster's head, cramping its wide mouth. She raises her weapon in a greeting and speaks in a language that you've only heard among the elders raised in distant villages. The old speech is almost forgotten outside the most remote pagan tribes. All I have left is the city tongue. I can't understand you. She stays still for a few breaths, then uses sound that she's clearly not used to saying out loud. You lost. During the following minutes, you both try to get used to each other's speech, though sometimes you can't find any common ground depending on the combination of the city tongue and gestures. You explain that you're heading to the village at the end of this path, and she says if you have a message for the chief or shaman, say it to me. I need to speak with them myself. I'm the local road warden. Even though she doesn't give any clear commands to her mount, it takes a few steps forward, moving without needing to speed up quickly. After a confident leap, the beast lands on the crag right above you, allowing the warrior to look at you closely. Roadwarden, she says in the city tongue, like a Starion, to city folk. You nod. What do Roadwardens do, really? I do have the greeting that the forest speaker gave me, but this isn't the time to use it, I guess. I protect travellers and help settlements stay in touch with each other. You hear a monstrous roar coming from the mountains. The woman looks around with a raised spear, and when her eyes return to you again, her voice is strict. You'll find no ting for you here, as we seek no travels, no in touch. She pulls the reins and makes the saurian turn around, then leaps away, up the path, staying on top of the crags. Nothing happening here. She shouts from a distance. Road not safe. Come, we'll speak in the village. Tell Sodal to keep up with the beast. Ride through the corridor of rock faces, led by the jumping Saurian. The woman in a helmet blows a large horn, longer and thinner than a ram's, with enough power to cause an avalanche. And once you reach the massive wooden gate blocking the path, it's already open. Few people you've seen so far are well equipped, wearing heavy jackets, shield and steel weapons, though some of them seem a bit old. Your surroundings get more spacious, with small green garden patches and stone sheds spread out on both sides of the path. Riding by the onlookers, you enter a trot, then a walk. The locals pay as much attention to you as your mount, commenting on the appearance in the old speech. Unlike the guards, the workers are carrying rather simple tools, many of them made of bones or rocks. Their worn, undyed outfits are appropriate for hard labour, worn and patched up, but also heavy, protecting their owners from the cold mountain winds. The one thing that differentiates them from one another is their headgear. Every person you see is wearing something on their head, mostly ear-covering kerchiefs, vividly dyed, with embroidered patterns of leaves, flowers and gems. They are sea folk, no doubt about it. They have long limbs, hardly any beards, and the few children you see have uncovered hair, wavy and dense. Yet their paleness is unusual, as if they spend little time outside. The guide is nowhere in sight, but so far no one has tried to stop you. I don't want to trample anyone. I dismount and look for the Saurian rider. She awaits you at the cave mouth, where the teeth and tongue are so distinct you doubt they were shaped so without the villagers' interference. The crisp air carries the scent of late summer meadows. Aside from the discussions of farmers and guards, you hear the roaming wind and gloating ibexes, but the terraces and crops around you are quiet, making you realize it's the first village you've seen in quite a while, where there is no constant noise of humming water or of heavy labour. A safe place, but don't be here for long, you hear from your guide in her lacking city tongue, though still much better than your old speech. She's not the only guard in sight. The spears, slings and clubs are getting a bit too numerous for your tastes. We need you not, she looks around, but only a few people nod in agreement. Most of them are giving you puzzled looks. What's your gift to the chief and to shaman? You realise she's no more than 40, and even if she has a small stature, no one seems eager to replace her as negotiator, or to question her authority. The accent of those who chat in the distance is so dense you can't catch a single word. Need to bring a gift so I can see your leaders? She lets out a dishonest laugh. Why would they want to see you? She tries to say something you can't understand, and after a few attempts she picks up a small rock. Your problems, she keeps in front of her chest, then points at the mountains above you. Our lives. Show her my possessions. Do any of these interest you? What would you want then? With a playful voice she tries to tell you something complex, even asking her companions to help them translate, but finally gives up. Tingria to us, good blade, good drink. Spices. There's something I could do for you instead. No, she scoffs, but seeing your expression continues with a serious look of her own. Mountains will kill you, you need years to learn them. The things of the woodlands are of no worth to us. Don't dare to say we need help of city folk. Alright, I bring news of great importance, matters of life and death. Hesitant, she answers slowly, important. To a Roadwarden of city folk, but not to souls of... She says a few words in the old speech, and after you're frowned, tries to translate them through a displeased frown. to the tribe of the Green Mountain. Trying to find Asterion. She gives you a grim look. Our shaman too, but I can't talk about it. Trying to find a few hunters from the village of Creeks. Were they around? Not in years. Okay. Need to hide. Sleep. She looks away and speaks with her neighbours, making you wait in silence, then gestures for you to follow her to the shed just a few steps behind you. The room is filled with sacks, old barrels, and bone-made tools. You'll have a sleeping spot here. Leave the beast there. She points at the main path. We guard the village. It will be safe. Soon after, a few more farmers bring a pile of furs, placing them in the corner. Move them there when you go to sleep. Your guide points to the center of the room. Okay, I need something. Okay, I need something. Blah, 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 blah. How much time do I have? I have enough time to get to Creeks, I guess. Nest, the giant, small cave. Yeah, let's travel to Foggy Lake. We found the village. They're just not letting us speak. Free meal. Nice. Cool. Way to buy something. Maybe a new axe is something I could buy. She did say drink, so maybe cider. About drink? No. Okay, we've got 2.5 hours. Should be able to get to Creeks and back easily enough. Ephraim, about the hunters. Do you recognize this knife? He reaches for it without thinking twice, then brings it close to his face, studying the tiny details on the bone. I do, he whispers. It belonged to Edmund's mother. He lowers it, but holds it tightly. But she's not around anymore. Where was it? This time, he listens patiently, knowing you are saying as much as you can. There's no shell, only a ghoul. Everyone knows what that means. You'll wake up soon. He shakes his head, as if to drop the thought. Maybe so. Well, we had a deal, and you did your part. Thanks, I think. He puts an open palm on his forehead and closes his eyes. Once he notices that the wolf's head obstructs his fingers, he takes it off. As your light hit this head, his voice is empty. He told me you would get an even larger one. He looks at you. There are tears in his eyes, yet his voice is absent. Yes, we had a deal. I'll join you on your own adventure when the time comes, but I need to first close this ordeal. You ask him what he needs, but he puts on the hood and works his lips into a shadow of a smile. Nothing from you, friend. I already spoke with the others. The wood is ready for a pyre with meat to roast. And you did a lot for our tribe, and we would love to see you at our table. There may be some tears among us, but there will be laughter, songs, and enough of Foggy's casks to forget a thing or two. Can't promise anything, but you suddenly realize the opportunity at hand. A group of vulnerable dazed souls maybe open their ears to your request. If you're on their good side and know enough about them, it'll be a perfect moment to offer them a covenant with Hovlavin. I'm sure I can spare an evening. I assume it's Ela who's preparing it. I'll speak with him when I'm ready. Just don't keep us waiting too long, eh? I may be in your debt, but I want to put all of this behind me, focus on what's to come. Okay, good hunting. Okay, Ela. Have I made, clear the bushes east of the stone bridge. His eyes widen and he looks left and right, then whispers, "Why would you do such a thing? Someone may now think there's a path there. I need that path." He observes you in silence and gives up. "Well, I'll trust a road warden's judgment. Wait here for a bit if you may." He puts away his tools and heads to a distant building. Once he returns, he's holding a wooden plank. "Take this and leave it somewhere on the trail at the bridge, will you? Maybe tie it to a tree." He hands you an old sign covered with dark reddish paint. "Blood there," you think, and then ask him if it's not too dark. "The only paint we can squeeze out of the plants of our meadows," he admits and gets back to his work. Okay, we can put a sign there, cool. Let you know if there's anything else. Funeral rites. Let's begin the preparations. Everything's ready, friend. We'll be glad to have you at our side. I think about Hovleben and its goals for the peninsula. I'm honoured to be invited. The rites take little time and go by without prayers, singing, or sacrifices. The family members share their memories and regrets. Every story you hear is vague, yet accompanied by understanding nods and looks shared among the tribe, as well as chuckles and tears that start long before the conclusion. After the years you spent in Hovleben, it's hard to imagine how familiar and intimate all the people around you are. Even Foggy and her staff are paying a visit. This evening, the tavern is closed. You now sit at a table, and the first few meals are brought in. The bowls are mostly filled with meat, but it's the humble loaves of bread, slices of cheese, herbs, sauces, smoked fish, and wild fruits that disappear first. The warmth of the bonfire is reaching your hands and face, comforting you whenever a cold gust of wind hits the square. The bone earring instantly vanishes among the logs. The cooks have pierced the chunks of game meat with long sticks and are holding them in the flames. There may be no priest, but I share in the solemnity of the moment. Oh, look at that big tummy full. The wood cracks beneath the flames. You've never seen the village of Creeks as quiet as it is now. But the way the locals face their morning is anything but lonely. Pats on the backs or hands are common, as well as long embraces and whispered condolences. As time goes on, more and more people rest on the stools and chairs, though there are a few exceptions. An old man with no legs is lying on a blanket, served by a girl who seems to be his great-granddaughter. One of the hunters steps away to get back on the watchtower, keeping an eye out for any being that may be lured by the noises. Shoshi is sitting in front of the building, singing about the forests of the past and the gardens of tomorrow. The cooks are bustling about, bringing supplies from the house of gatherings and taking care of the roasting meat. Most of the children are only half awake. As the cups get filled with mead, ale, and cider, brought here by Foggy, Ephraim is the first person to sit down next to you, and loudly, though he's still observing the flames. His wolf cloak is nowhere in sight, though from time to time he reaches towards his head, as if he's not used to the wind brushing his black hair, now shining in the dancing light. Judging by the way he sways and how absent his eyes are, he opened one of the casks a few hours back. "Where's your hood?" "Iskos, my boring-ass brother told me it's too silly for the rites. You hear that? My trophy, my biggest prey. Too silly to say farewell to 3 hunters." You try to respond, but he interrupts you by pointing at you with his mug. "I'm now in your debt, aye? We're going on a journey?" His eyes shift into anger. "I was losing my wits waiting for this evening. You kept me for so long, waiting. Can't you see that those were my friends?" As he rambles, his thoughts wander off somewhere else, and before he gets back to you, Eli gives him a pat on his back and places a full mug in front of you. Smell the contents before I drink anything. You catch the sweetness and distinctive aromas of roasted malts. A single sip makes you think of a cookie coated with caramelized sugar, something you smelled a few times among the city stalls, though you never brought more than one at a time. The beverage is much stronger than most beers and ales you've tasted, but far from being dull, so you decide to enjoy it slowly. The carpenter nods approvingly, grabs himself a stump and joins you with his own slow drinking. All three of you stare into the flames, hardly noticing a few more tribesfolk that gather behind you. Carpenter breaks the silence. How are you doing, Buta? Life's been treating you good on the peninsula? I've had some good days. I'm making progress. Wonderful. He strokes his stomach and meets your eyes. Just don't disappear like a Asterion. You'd rather chase after something his whole life than walk away with Lil. Not unlike me, but also he tilts his mug, pointing the mouth of it at the flames. Not unlike them. After a few moments you realize that almost all the adults are gathered behind you, observing you keenly. As the tension rises, you think about your blade, now resting by your saddlebags. It's Ela who asks the question. We owe you a lot, Buta. Why do you really help us? There is one option. If Levin wants to reach this land, for your own sake you should join it. Taxes for their protection, loyalty for their renewed trading route. Old Harbour was right, says one of the farmers, so that's why they sent the second one, adds the woodcutter. The fuss stops as quickly as it started, cut by the loud voice of the drunk Ephron. Let the Roadwarden make a case for it. You glance at the back. You glance at the eyes of some of the locals. Some of them are distrustful, others are curious, and a few are excited. Even though you already recognize many of these faces, the dancing flames make them look like a strange crowd awaiting a prophecy. Oh boy, that's a... This is a lot of things to make a case for. Okay. I'm hoping I get to choose all of them and not just one that I think is the best. Okay. An old druid who lives on the opposite side of the peninsula told me about the recent migrations of beasts in the north. You've been struggling with monsters for decades now. It's finally a time for you to seek allies. Beasts don't enter our valley, says one of the hunters, but it is quickly shushed. Yet, adds a one-handed farmer harshly, while a herbalist with wavy hair points at the bonfire. And even if it's turning into a prison. Some of the locals nod in agreement, but Old Harbour's tone is far from docile. Better to have a troll in the yard than a dragon in the bed. I've seen your tools, weapons, houses. You need iron, you need copper. Levin will help you gain steel, bronze and brass. A dark-skinned builder crosses her arms. We've got no smiths either, no furnaces, no place to learn. You mentioned that there are always artisans looking for work. Apprentices, maybe. Oggy corrects you. At least you may be sure that they will have enough arms to assist your labour, and enough years left to stay with you for a long time. You note the approving looks among the youth. Fresh blood is of value, says the forager, and Ela encourages them with a smile. And after what I've heard about the city guilds, I don't think an apprentice would be a lazy good-for-nothing. I know you don't have as many supplies as you need. Depending on animals you keep alive to butcher is not a safe way to deal with winters. Some of them don't meet your eyes, as if to avoid admitting to the days of hunger. Ephron lets out a sigh. At the beginning of summer, I'd say he pauses to break through the cloud of drink. We had more hunters than ever, but he takes a glance at the bonfire and turns back to the crowd quickly, clenching his teeth. Ela observes him for a moment, but doesn't comment on his behaviour. We do have a field now. It may not be so bad. The rest of the tribe adds to both sides of the argument, though no conclusion is reached. You don't really believe this wall will keep you safe, do you? Without a forest garden, you lack wood, and you can't afford stone. You need proper guards to protect your homes and lumberjacks. Our wall has been good enough so far, starts one of the farmers, but his partner, now holding an arm around his back, is more doubtful. We lost children, chicken, and food to the smaller beasts. We don't have enough eyes to watch everything. Ela chips in with enthusiasm. If we hope to grow our families or invite new folks, we need more homes, more ground, a new wall. I'd rather it be a strong one. Still, some of the locals would rather see more effort put into the new fields rather than a wall. One bad fire in the forest, then we go hungry, mentions the forager. A few others agreed. Your blood is growing thick. You can seek new settlers among city folk, or use the safer roads to find willing people at other villages. Skinny farmer snickers. Do you address our blood or our loins? And a few of the locals chuckle, but even though the scarcity of food is brought up, most of the locals seem to agree it's a problem that needs to be addressed sooner rather than later. You want to grow crops, but you have no experience. With the city's help, you may hire a specialist to teach you everything you need to know and invest in the best seeds. Old Harver is quick to mention that the fine grain will cost much more than the seeds of wild fruits and vegetables, but as soon as she finishes, one of the hunters confronts her. Harver, you don't always know how to plant these seeds. I've heard about the bed plants having nothing but grass for more than a year. As he mentions it, the other farmers observe their boots, as if to avoid getting their angry headwoman. Once the argument between the two gets a bit too bitter, Ephraim nudges you to go on. Sooner or later a plague will reach you. Living in isolation will postpone this delay, but once it comes, how can you know help will ever come? The best chance is to keep people like me around. If you're so eager, maybe it's you who should stay around, mentions Joshi, but her herbalist friend shakes her head. We need not one soul, but a way to find many in its place. Plagues are stronger than one shall and will. Even though she says so, a many in the tribe would give you warm smiles. Just look how much work I was able to complete at the Eastern Path. You can't keep it clear away yourself, but with the city's army and regular merchant troops, we will endure winters and rains. Ela eagerly agrees. Your horsemanship got you further than any of us in a long time. One of the hunters interrupts him. But you can see that the Roadwarden has never helped us for our sake, They're a city spy. The carpenter gives him a long look, then carries on slowly. Spy or not, Buta's past efforts will change our future, and I'm willing to see what else a single Roadwarden can do, not to mention a squad of soldiers. Maybe I shouldn't try it, but Foggy, won't you vouch for me? You know I'm a valuable ally, and the tribe depends on your tavern. The city will bring many more people to help you. Oof. For a moment, you're convinced that her laughter has put out the fire behind you. Of course, love. You trust the city folk, and I trust you. I'll speak with any official who dares to leave their silk sheiks and hit the road. It's risky, but you know me well. I have your trust. I wouldn't try to trick you. I genuinely would not try to trick these people. They're too lovely. One of the hunters nods with conviction and licks his lips before he speaks. Roadwarden is a friend of our tribe, he starts, and many a yes comes from other parts of the square. Brief anecdotes focused on your deeds and words serve you well, but Ephraim reaches for his absent hood and scoffs. You ought to listen to strong thoughts, not soft hearts, he says loudly, but the majority of the group dismisses his point. I have nothing more to add. It is time for the discussion and the vote, announces Ela, gesturing for everyone to form a circle, and Foggy agrees. And fast, we wake up early, I want to reach the tavern soon. Soon after sunrise. Oh, and love, she looks at you with a wolf-like grin. Better take care of that before it burns, she points at a piece of roasting mouflon. For the next few minutes you listen to a lively discussion, but it turns out to be rather one-sided, and most of the doubts get buried by pointed replies and references to your previous deeds. Finally, the voting occurs, and it takes no scribe to spot many more hands raised for the aye side. I stand up. I'm gonna close my window. It's getting cold. Just a moment. There's no clapping or cheerful shouts. Ella spreads his arms, lit by the glow of the bonfire. We will meet with the city folk and negotiate the terms. The shadow of his words spread above the old untamed paths of the tribe, and the grief follows. Nevertheless, a few of the locals approach you to share good words and to wish you a safe journey to the city. Some hope you will bring back a few gifts. The feast continues with heavy souls, but the tension leaves your shell. All you have left are heavy eyelids and some time to kill. I think my gambling friends are giving me inviting looks. Your first sleep starts quickly and lasts a long time, relaxing and gentle. When you wake up after a few hours, you think of the leaders you've encountered, the work you've done for them, and the hardships you had to overcome to get on their good side. You've spun the first threads of your web of connections. Your head is clear, and you start to recollect your time in the peninsula. You sometimes lie, but not unusually so, and you didn't sacrifice people for your own well-being. It's still you, the same soul who arrived here, so close to reaching your goal. I've managed to keep my conscience clean. I knew that being power-hungry would devour me as well. Your maximum vitality grows from 4 to 5. As you look around, thinking on your journey, you feel relaxed and complete. You smile, thinking of all the things you've accomplished and of what still awaits you. The next stage of my life. Someone wakes you up, warning of the fog that covers the square so densely you can't see further than 4 steps away from the door. The adults stand alert for more than an hour, keeping spears in their reach, and from time to time shouting at other houses, making sure everyone's still alive. While I'm looking for a candle, I think of the many times I've heard parents telling their naughty kids that the fogs will take them. After a few hours spent on a pile of furs, I'm by myself, thinking. I'm woken up by my companion, who was getting dressed in the early morning light. You watch through eyes half-lidded with sleep as the skin you'd only recently caressed gets covered with leathers and furs, growing more distant with each piece of clothing. Most of the people were resting in the large room and have already left, but, as if to let you sleep, your erstwhile companion holds their boots in their hand, slipping out the exit. As you gather your senses, you come to think about the last words you heard before you fell asleep. Come to me in spring. When you leave the building, the square is filled with loud conversations. The locals are sitting with plates of cold meat and bowls of gruel, chatting about the plans for the day. Many of them wish you a great day. Sodal was well rested and satisfied with grass. Alright, so I feel like I need to stop back over there. Need to buy a good drink or something. So, Ela, have you ever met the tribe of the Green Mountain? Chisel falls out of his hand. When he reaches for it, he looks around, making sure no one else is around. Not really. When I was a kid, I saw an old tribesfolk speaking with them in the old speech, I think. They aren't around anymore, but I've heard I owe them a lot. Or we owe them a lot. Ephraim, have you ever met the tribe? Leans away and gives you a surprised look, but then shrugs so nonchalantly that his hat falls on his back. Now, they use the old speech. It sounds like they'd like a drinking song of a seagull. He scoffs at his own joke. I've only talked to our elders, like Foggy, he whispers. Aye, though don't call her that. There was a time when they gave us seeds and spears on a visit. And we also brought them gifts and asked for something. What was it? After you prattled for a bit, you changed the topic. Good hunting. Old Harbour. Need some pliers. A whole chicken. Okay, we'll buy a whole chicken since it's spiced. Yeah, well. Okay. It's time to leave. I don't think there's anything in Gale Rocks I need at the moment. Right, check my quest real quick. Studying the golems. The runaway. Speak with Glaucier about that, that's fine. Quills for the monastery. Yes, I'll get a healing potion for that. The Empress Carp. I'm the Roadwarden. Okay. There's one thing I can do in creeks, but I don't think it's really worth getting all the way up there quite yet. How many days? I've got 18 days still. Let's see, 3 hours to there, 3 hours to there. That would make an extra half hour on the trip for the day. We already know a bunch about her golems, but I don't really want to sell her out for anything. Might be worth asking her if she wants to come to the city. Before you cross the bridge, you're told to wait by Ela. There's one more thing, friend. Ever since we said farewell to our hunting friends and siblings, the tribe of Creeks sees we're lacking fresh blood, and that we got too cocky with these woods and roads. If you think this is a good place for you, his dramatic pause is betrayed by the shaking lips of a concealed smile, you could stay with us for however long you'd like. We've already voted on it, and to be honest, you're quite popular. This laughter is so honest you can't help but feel warmth in your stomach. And it sounds, I'd love that, friend, but I'll need to finish a few things first. He spreads his arms. Do so. The 10 cities may take a step back from your life, but it's not like we're hermits. Close this old chest of yours and come back. Just don't die before the spring. He's standing a few feet away, not sure what to say. Step closer and hug him. He smells of wood shavings and mud, but also cooked meat. You stay in brief embrace, without a word. After a few breaths, he heads up the hill. I also walk away, without looking back. Damn it. Travel. Eudocia. Gonna ask her to come to the city. Quick save. Something too important to discuss. She puts away her stuff and looks at your ear, frowning. Are you taking off your mask? I smile. I've got a good offer for you. Good for someone, but my soul has neither great needs nor appetite. An awkward pause. Take a walk with me. I want to stretch my legs. While we're heading toward the gate, I tell her about my deal with the guild. You mention the merchants, the officials, and the high status of the enchanters among the city folk. She lets you speak without interruption, observing your surroundings, still barefoot and with a worn robe. She looks like a cook in a herbal garden. You approach the pond and she takes a deep breath. The geese in the distance are as grey as her irises. We're just in time. The air is still fresh. Her tone is hard to decipher, and she keeps taking long pauses. I've built so much, and over so many years. Now you want me to tie myself to some coin holders, or even worse, to leave all this? She waves towards her residence behind. City folk will start negotiations with the tribes as well. You don't have to be left out. You're close to the crag behind the residence, observing the heavy golem that's lifting large boulders and moving them aside. So far, it has formed a small pile of rocks that resemble its own limbs. You describe the support you've already gathered, as well as your further plans. I can either face the avalanche or wait for it to bury me, she summarizes, then lowers her voice. No one is going to honor my own will. You know how easy it is to suddenly disappear in this land. Just think about Asterion. I'd rather not. She rubs her arms above the elbows, as if to warm herself up. Can you be sure the monks won't turn their neighbours against you? She cocks her head to the side. So far they've done naught to hurt me. I went as far away from them as I could. I bother no one. I promised the monks not to betray them. Damn. The peninsula is a dangerous place. With little help to offer, I know that better than anyone. You mentioned the monsters you've encountered, the destruction of Steep House, the undead of White Marshes, the troll from the old camp in Hag Hills, the plague, the fate of the missing hunters, her own fear of the bandits. Her shoulders slump. I know the outside world outgrows me. Why can't it just stay away? In Hovleven you'll find all the snake bait you need, as well as other entertainments. She flinches. It's not like I smoke it every day. She picks a reed growing by the bank, examines it for a bit, and throws it into the water. But I admit finding the flowers isn't easy. What's your decision? You answer a few more questions about the city, and her doubtful glances are slowly replaced with polite nods. So all I have is your word for now, but that's better than naught. For a few more breaths you listen to the branches and grass trampled by your feet. Finally, Eudocia looks in the distance and gestures for you to follow her back to the gate. I'll speak with your puppeters, and I've got a little gift for them. A gift? A sign of goodwill. She waves it off. Let me gather my thoughts. You reach the front yard, greeted by Sodal's curious snort. The enchantress enters her house briefly and brings back what looks like a plank made of rock shards. Tell them I made this 10 years ago. Should be enough to convince them my golems are real. But what is it? Well, she invites you to stretch out your hand, then keeps your fingers with her own. Her touch is cold. A keepsake from the time I needed to build my first sentinel. The rocks clench to your skin, from your wrist to your shoulder, like a sleeve. Your arm gets slightly heavier, but the sensation fades away. Don't shake anyone's hand while wearing this. Her words carry both pride and melancholy. Takes time to get used to my spell's strength, To take it off, just give it a rapid pull here. She grabs it close to your shoulder and the golem glove falls away. Even though the rocks aren't connected to each other in any visible way, they keep their general shape. As long as you don't push any of the parts too fiercely, the Numa will hold. Thank you for your trust, Eudocia. After she meets your eyes, her bewilderment gives way to a warm smile. Nothing to trade. Well, that went better than I expected, honestly. Alright, let's go deal with these bloody bandits. 3 hares cross the road so quickly you barely notice them. Soon after they disappear into the shrubs, a large spotted cat shows up trying to catch up with them. It spares you only a glance. Right, to the bandits' hideout. The rocky hills give way to meadows and tree roots. Saplings wake up beneath the remains of the burnt forest, competing for young grasses and ivies. At first, the nearby's howl make you think of humans, not beasts. But the numerous throats make you reach for your axe. The creatures, not even waist height, come out from the taller grasses and spear vast bushes, surrounding you quickly. Despite their wolf-like heads, their front paws would fit a monkey. Their furs are mostly brown and short, but carry scars left by all sorts of cuts and scratches. Almost every knoll lacks a part of its shell, a limb, an ear, a nose, an eye. Some of them move on all fours and sit down on their rears, while others walk around on their hind legs alone, though with varying levels of confidence. A few have the grace of a determined robin, many more resemble the harbour drunkards. Consider my options. While you may be able to take a few of them down, they will surely bite into Sodal's legs. You won't keep both of you alive. You could follow one of the old tales, according to which the beast folk can be bribed with the gift of food. For now, the beasts are keeping their distance, baring their teeth between their grunts, sitting in the saddle. You're 4 times taller than them. Okay. Screw it, just take the roast chicken, I guess. No. Maybe. I have plenty of food rations, right? Yeah, that's fine. And I'm heading over to Howler's Dell, so I should be able to just buy more. Here's 3 food rations. The packages scare away the nearest gnolls, but the braver ones get closer, cautiously smelling and poking their new booty. Suddenly they bite into the scraps of linen, revealing the fruits and scraps of meat. 3 of the largest beasts grab your gift, one with its jaws, 2 with their forearms, then run to the hills, followed by the rest of the loud, excited pack. If the stories are true, the gnolls should now spend some time away from the human eyes. Pat Sodal's side and try to calm its nerves with an encouraging tone. At the edge of the pond, you spot a mouldy, closed satchel hanging from one of the branches high above the trail, most likely taken there by an ape or bird. Like other trees in this part of the forest, this one is ridiculously wide, covered with dark, scaly bark. It will take time to climb up the slippery branches. I don't want to break anything inside the bag. It may take some time, but I tether my horse to a branch and climb up to grab the bag. You gather the useful tools. Climbing up the trunk without wrapping your arms around it is difficult. Every 2 or 3 feet you cut and tear away slices of bark, making in new steps. It gets easier after you reach the first branch strong enough to hold your weight. You secure yourself with a rope. Once you reach the bag with the satchel, you pull yourself towards it, breaking minor twigs. You pull the lever strap to raise the bag and unpin it. After a few long, tiring minutes, you get back on the ground. Scatter its contents on the ground. The foul smell hits your nostrils like a hammer. You ignore the old fruits coated with maggots and eggs, as well as the mouldy shirt, but you kick away the small pouch, cut it open, only to find 2 dragon bones. Damn, that was all, huh? Sodal stops, then steps back. Right in the middle of the road lies a cat the size of a bear, lapping the nasty pond water. You look around, but there are no other monsters. The thick fur is the colour of tree trunks, with black spots on its side and back. The glimpses of cream on the tail and the head. You notice scars spread around the shell, left by claws, tusks and fangs of its victims. The hind paws are larger than your head. You need a whole squad to overcome such a creature. Okay, it's here to drink. Maybe it's not hungry. We ride to the other side quickly. Nope. Instantly deaf. Instant death. Holy shit. Okay. Try and scare it away. You get on the ground, prepare your equipment, and with a loaded crossbow in your hands, you head toward the creature. So far it hasn't noticed you. Sneak towards it. Try to stay calm, observing the legs of the creature as large as tree stumps. That's a really big cat. After a few breaths, it raises its head, shakes its hairy ears, and looks in your direction with its only eye. The other one has been lost to claws. It springs to its paws and shakes its graceful fur, then takes the first step forward. I stand straight, making myself as tall as I can with raised shoulders and chest out. Stand astride, swinging my axe as if I'm ready to strike. We practiced this stance many times, though it doesn't seem to impress the cat greatly. It approaches you with slightly bent knees without stopping. Twishes its tail left and right. I look directly into its eye and do my best not to blink. I'm in control. It's orange like flame, with a small black pupil that's clingingly observing you from beneath the lowered eyelid. The creature slows down, but you're the first one to blink. After a minute, the cat is close enough to jump on you. No, it'll just swat me to the side if I try to run straight at it. Pull the trigger. Your crow hits the creature's shoulder, burrowing deep inside, and a terrifying roar cuts through the sky. You step away, but the cat doesn't follow you. It reaches the woods with a couple long leaps, as nimble as a house pet crossing a backyard. Even if it has to spear its wounded limb, it walks away slowly, blending in with the plants. It matches their colours perfectly. Continue on. Oh, what a lot of encounters just to get here. Oh yeah, you still have spices you took from the merchants. This again, you're in luck. We sell our wares sparsely to make sure everyone needs them. She turns towards you and runs her eyes over you, then pats your arm with a strong hand. I give you a box with many different sacks for 25 coins. I give discounts to helpful allies. I can afford 20. That's a lot. Think about it. About the man you're looking for. Quick save. Found a shell in the wood that matches your description you gave me, mauled to death by beasts. And you're sure I won't find him prowling around? Would make me very angry, it would. After you describe how she can still find his blood among the grasses east of the stone cairn, she scoffs. That's what happened when a wolf leaves its pack. She turns away and continues her stroll. The sound of her heels and mail ruffles the nearby rocks. What did white marshes do to you? She kicks away a piece of the roof that has fallen on the ground and, without stopping, turns full circle. Maybe it's her stride that helps her maintain the angry tone, hiding any trace of melancholy. After the fall of Steep House, I returned there a few days later to torch any neighbours left behind by the scavengers. Me, she glances at a few of her men, whose eyes are focused on the nearby grasses and nettles, and a few others who were hiding with me in a cave, with raw meat and bark in our stomachs, rags on our back and sharpened flints in our hand. A rook tries to rest on a wooden post next to her, but as it struggles to stay upright, it rescues itself with a wing flap and lands on Glacia's shoulder, though only for a few heartbeats. Once she carries on, her words flow slowly, dim and flat. We pushed the ashes aside, dug in the soft ground, even jumped into the stream, but there were no shells waiting us. Ghouls, we thought, runners or goblins. We travelled far those days to warn our last few friends. A Woken will strike, we told them, make clubs, dig moats, and we waited in this very hamlet, seeking them and preparing ourselves. A year went by, then another. We saw the first enslaved shells in white marshes, the deeds of Arentius, the priest. We thought little of it, not the first sin of our lifetimes, until we realized it wasn't merely their dead who Dad had woken. Her voice cracks, but it manages to keep her composure. They had taken my husband, his parents and many others, wagons of dead flesh. We spend a good minute in silence. We're but a band of workers. We can't storm walls or send an army of beasts to punish evil acts. But our work bears fruits, and we'll find a way to get rid of the necromancers, or make their lives so dire they'll leave their homes on their own. They'll regret what they did to you, to everyone. Don't make me laugh, her tone is as somber as ever. Regret is good for a cook who took a bite out of another's chicken, or a hunter who missed a shot. They'll pay for the decision they've made. I'll listen to no excuses. Without another word, she reaches for the water skin and moves forward. You were there when Steep House was fallen, weren't you? She stops and turns around. When she places a hand on her side, the mail clinks. I saw it all right. Thasis's threats, the torches and bows of her people, the druids in clean robes with curses on their tongues. I helped the others add logs to our broken wall, but when the herds got in and through the breach, all I could do was run. So I did. She closes her eyes, but her wounded hand instantly moves to the scabbard of her blade, just in case. I still remember two young men, no, boys, fighting each other by the flames of my house, and a head hitting a tree. My husband screaming from the pain in our bed, poisoned by the well, not knowing he would never fall asleep nor wake up, and a werebear grasping my friend, then tearing her shell in half. I, and a few others, carry it all. Her absent eyes glance at one of her guards, a man with a face eaten by fire, and will never forget. I know Thasus was angry about the thing with the Covenant, but why were the people with Howlers willing to do all this? They would say we were asking for it. I spent not even 15 years in Steep House, but I saw my share of quarrels between the two villages. Did you know they were both the same tribe? It's true, she emphasizes, even though her eyes are focused on the roaming rooks. She must have told this story many times already. Howlers started as a fishing hamlet at this stream bank, and it sprouted into a new village. In a few generations, Steep House grew strong enough to prosper without Howlers' help, and decided to cut ties. We pretty much paid taxes, you see, and got little in return, chiefly since we were placed closer to the hill pass, and many traders turned around soon after they entered our gates. My neighbours had riches, all right, good food and pretty homes. She pauses. And you're not sure if these words make her at all proud. But respected their lands, woods and stream. The only greed we faced was that brought to us with violence. Her furious eyes look away as she strides forward. So now you aim your rage at White Marshes. Is Howlers dealt next? A smirk on her scattered lips sends shivers down your spine. Maybe. What else do you want me to do? She gestures for you to sit down on the bench, though its age makes it look more like a rotten log. With hands on her side, she looks across the hamlet. This will be easy for you, though it will take you into a fetid place. Those cowards from White Marshes won't let us in, not that I blame them, but they may welcome you if you have any charm at all. Staring in your eyes, she speaks slowly, as if she's giving orders to a child. Get there, go through the bogs spread out by the western road, and look around. Count the awoken, or see which side of the village is poorly guarded, what weapons they have, and what they're made of. She sits down next to you, and her arm burdens your shoulders. She pulls you closer to her, and you lean down. The delightful scent of myrtle doesn't make you any more comfortable. I don't care about your trade. I need you as a spy, Buta, someone who can shut their lips when they speak to my enemies. She springs up, her mail jangling. I have a small pouch ready for you for your return, or 2 healing potions, always useful. She sizes you up to a traveller. I'll get it done. About the spying you wanted me to do. Okay, I'll get it done. Alright, spices. 23, I can afford that. I should go. Back to the cairn. I guess we're off to Heller's Dell. West to the gate. You approach the monkey's territory. The dwellers gather around, observing you, jumping around and yelling, but they keep their distance. 2 precise shots from the crossbow should be enough to discourage them. After loading a crossbow from the saddle isn't easy, but you've got time. Catch the second quarrel with your teeth, aim carefully, and pull the trigger. The colourful beast falls down in silence. Her companions point at the fallen shell, shouting as it doesn't move. The panic spreads through the troop, giving you time to reload. Soon, another creature hits the ground, this time screaming in pain. The monkeys flee through the trees and either hide behind the trunks or observe you from denser leaves. I ride forward, shaking my weapon in the air. Sick of getting hit by their poop. The air in these bright, arid hills is much drier than in the woods. Down below, among the humble meadows, you spot a stone plateau, on top of which a group of bipedal creatures is feasting on a large carcass. From what you can see, only a few of them would reach your knees, but as the pack notices your gaze, it starts to regroup. Devastated to a tree, I can handle a few bites from their tiny jaws. You grab your axe and shield, then head towards the crag slowly. Climbing to the top is simple enough. You step forward and take a few swings, raising your voice in taunts. The beasts keep running left and right, stretching out their shells, jumping up and warning you with shrieks. They are quick, nimble, and as loud as a bird. Finally, the largest kobold, whose head is covered with red scales, runs to the rock face and makes an impressive jump to the higher ledge. The others follow it, leaving you with a few more discontent screeches. You doubt it's the first time their prey gets stolen. Examine the carcass. It's an ibex with brown elegant fur. Its black horns were broken in half. There's a red knot attached to one of its front ankles, a sign of ownership. Just leave it. There's fresh blood on the road, but the trail leads to the deep bushes. Quintus looks at you from the top of the precipice that's near the tower. He crosses the parapet, gestures for you to wait, climbs down to the other side of the wall and opens the gate. Salutations, Warden. What are you, Lord of the Wilds or what? Any idea who could be the owner of an ibex marked with a red knot? He flinches and narrows his eyes. A red knot? We use those in my home. Like, not my, but old Pagos. Like, you'd open the gate. Really sure? Do it. Oh, that, no, wait. No, go back, go back, go back. Oh shit, how do I go back? No, I didn't mean to do that. No! Quick load. Yep. Maybe the scavengers. Okay. I clicked. Okay. So I'm already through the gate. Right. 5 hours. Could go to Old Pagos. Might be worth stopping off there. Might be worth stopping off at the Stone Library as well. Massive flock of white and orange birds is circling above the hill, casting a shadow on the plateau. You knock on the gate a few times, but for a minute or two no one comes. Finally it opens with Tertia standing in the centre. See a hint of a smile in her brown eyes. It's good to see you again, Buta. Found an ibex marked with a red knot. Was there any of yours? She cocks her head to the left as her brown eyes widen. You found it? Is it safe? After you mention the kobold, she nods. We had no hopes of seeing it again. Creatures who are used to living with humans won't survive on their own, so I'll let the other know. Thank you. Alright. 4 hours. You mentioned you lack delicacies. How about this roast chicken? Jackals, I lack no such thing, but we look after a few weak souls. After sniffing the spiced meat, he gives you an approving nod. We've got a few bones we can spare. I'll pay you 2 coins for such a meal. Yeah, take this chicken for 2 dragons. Okay, would you brew me something that helps with my journey? Need to restore our supplies first. He glances at the nearby garden. Most of its fruits and leaves are already plucked. If there's something I can offer thee, bring me a cavia, a mushroom that grows in humid chambers underground, and snakebait, an orange flower from the deep woods, though some smoke it for pleasure. On their own they're poisonous, together even more so, he snorts. I can turn into a dust that sharpens one's senses, good for combat. He cracks his knuckles. In one night I could prepare 3 doses or so, but use them with care. Once the pneuma loosens, they'll weaken your shell. Here's the mushroom and the snakebait. He reaches for them, then blinks and steps away. After a few moments he brings an empty bucket and tells you to put the ingredients inside. Fine, the sharpening poison will be ready after sunrise. Here are your quills. Reaches for the case, yada yada, deal was a potion. Right, he pulls out a small earthenware bottle. It's a good one. It won't fix a severed arm, but it shall seal the wound. He hands it to you with his bare hands. Well done. Spoke with Eudocia about her sentinels. The report takes you a few good minutes, especially since Ailey spares you no questions. After you mention that the golems are meant to be available for purchase, he gives Decima a worried look. She's inviting a dragon, he says in the end. He walks up and down the path with hands behind his back, like a commander preparing themselves for battle. No tribe could stop a squad of these. Most troubling news. Awful. Took a closer look at the golems. You describe their looks and mention the unusual engravings you notice on the larger rocks. Ailey listens carefully, but it takes him a few heartbeats to respond. Such signs may be dangerous. He wipes his lips with his bandaged hand. I've read about the city golems. They're different. We may need help from an experienced fighter, but we lack such souls in the order. He finally lowers his hand, observing a child who hums a simple melody at the edge of the cliff. Learned more about the engravings covering the golems. Ailey's eyes are wide open. He and Decima exchange telling glances. He rubs his bandaged hand. If those signs work, who knows what kind of words she can select next. His voice is tense but hoarse, forcing him to cough. Take supplies, maybe, hunt humans. Told you quite a lot about those creatures already. It bears you a kind smile. You did. I'll speak with the prelate soon. Let me know when thou art ready to collect thy reward. Collect my reward. A secret. Tell me how to awaken the giant statue in the far east. He looks at Decima, who returns his puzzled stare. I know what that place thou meaneth, but I've no such knowledge. Let me ask the others. He leaves you with his companion, who also takes a few steps away, not bothering with idle chats. She stares in the distance, moving her shoulders to the tune played by the cold gale and observing the eagle that preens its feather. After Eli's return, his face is a bit paler. A truth of the pagans thou seekest, but if thou wishes so truly, that's what I'll give thee. Here's what I was told. Kneel and lower your head and pray these words 10 times, if not more. He utters a bunch of nonsense and smirks at your confused look. Means, oh, the spirits and the giant fathers be with our paths and not in thunder. It's not so simple, but that's the gist of it. Now follow my lead. He spends a few good minutes teaching you the phrases from the old speech until you repeat them without mistakes, though also no comprehension. While your tongue is not used to some of the sounds, the rhythm of the poem helps a lot. I hope thou dost not expect the cold rock to move like a golem. It's all a waste of thy time, he chuckles, but yes, that's the secret. Okay. Kneel and lower head. Cray. The case of figuring out which keyword I need. Please, pen. I need you to write. How's it like this? Kneel, pray, recite. Don't know which word to use, but try and figure it out. Thanks. Plague is gone. Can I spend the night here? He scowls at you and first, then at Decima, who observes the sky carelessly. After a few silent heartbeats, he lets out a grunt. Maybe in the storehouse, but don't think I'm going to look. After thy horse will cook for thee. All 3 cans to get is a roof for thy head. That's plenty. I appreciate it. So don't tell the others. Elder's Dell is an hour and a half away, which is easy enough to reach. I feel like I also need to stop on that pal to the north as well. Or do I just rest here and then head down tomorrow? Yeah, we'll sleep. Sleep. Listen to the wind, then to the stream, then fall asleep, unable to focus on your own thoughts. You wake up after a couple of hours disturbed by the loud clap of thunder, or is it a dragon's roar? You can't say. You spend some time awake listening to the peaceful breathing of Sodal and rolling over the old hay. You even take a brief walk indoors, stretching your arms and neck. You're both anxious and tired, with dreams and thoughts merged in an incoherent, aimless mass of impressions. When you lie down, you feel paralyzed, struggling to take a deep breath. It takes a long time before you close your eyes, but even when it happens, you have the feeling that someone is watching you with a pair of bright grey eyes. After waking up, I'm not sure which parts of the night truly happened. Alright, here's the poison. Nice, cool. Let's bugger off. There's nothing at Old Pagos along the way. Cool. Do Howler's Dell. I don't have time to talk. I'm broke. Yada yada. Go to the tailor, need your services. Gambison enhancement. I can't find the spider silk, so I'm just going to buy it outright. Spend the time brushing and watering the sword, practicing combat moves and stances with your axe, and washing your hands and face, creak, yada yada. Okay, good luck. Let's go to the main square. Now what's the trader got? Bring goods to sell. Now I have nothing he wants. What do you have for sale? Fabric and a new battle axe. It's fine. Need to eat a food ration while I'm at it. For now, I learnt why Glaucia is so obsessed with taking the necromancers down. As you see a Glaucia's story, Thesis gives you a cold look. That's what this is all about. Always struggled to see how she, a soul who I think you'll agree is rather sane, has worn blinkers for so many years. I knew I was missing part of the puzzle. Alright. She also stands up. Once you have a moment, talk with Akiko. She has something to say, a small token of appreciation. Let him walk away. What's up? Mia says she has something for me. Yep, it is right here. He reaches for a tube that's on the edge of the counter atop. Tapping it with his long fingers, it's made of hardened leather. There's a long strap to carry on one shoulder. Yeah, a token of our gratitude. His voice doesn't hold back a pinch of sarcasm. If Thesis asks you about it, tell her I gave you a nice speech and you feel very appreciated. I will, thanks. He smiles. Open it. It took me plenty of hours. You slide out a single scroll. The outer side is covered with a picture of a tree that bears no leaves nor fruits, and was painted with a couple shades of blue and purple, the most expensive dyes. The other side is covered with red letters which you can't read. What does it say? Oh, I do not remember, but unless you stay in ape ale for nothing with victuals. He wipes the sweat off his forehead. Bjorn will also honour it, at least when it comes to patching up your jacket. Thank you. Alright, innkeeper... no, leave the square. Okay. With the druids, I whisper, making sure none of the workers can hear me. The hamlet will stay as it is. He smiles gently, then steps back and bows deeply. Seeing this, the nearby druids also lower their heads. The others may not know it yet, but you've chosen their safety over their greed. Your kind heart will be remembered. Need to decide what to do with Steep House. Be easier for me to get the most from the village if I were to let Steep House fade into the past. Or to do my best to weaken the mayor's position. The druids may help with that. Could offer Thesis an alliance in exchange for my silence. Already did my part. Going to report everything to the city officials and let them decide if they should get involved. We might be able to side with the druids on it. Really respected in the village and seems to have unusual talent. So far, her attitude towards the mayor has been rather timid. If you can present a good case to make your turn against Thesis, you doubt she's going to keep your conversation a secret. So she'll listen to reason. After some time, the two of you are wandering in the forest garden. The thumping of the druid's staffs as she walks disappears in the overwhelming noise. A few hunters and the other druids are on the verge of sight looking out for beasts. She finally breaks the silence. Why do you want to speak of Steep House? Before you left the village, the suspicious looks of the guards convinced you the mayor already knows about your stroll. Faces is both ambitious and cruel. I won't allow her to hurt the other tribes. She may not be She may be much worse than that, but our neighbours see her as a sow protective of her bullets. She reaches for a rotten apple, and the branch from which it was hanging suddenly falls to the ground, even though it's still green. We do not choose our leaders through violence or intrigues, but through the votes of all. I may have my doubts, but I'm trusted to never seek control, only to give advice. You keep following the many beaten trails. The bright, sparse woods are nothing like those you've seen in the other parts of the peninsula. You must admit what happened to the village was terrible. She slackens her pace. I must. I know the druids played a role in the raid. The village fields are cursed to this day. As the gathering, we did not agree to the raid, but we agreed to protect our children, siblings and cousins during their strike, with humour and advice. Long pause. After we breached the rule, Thesis forced us to keep pushing. Some elders were hurt, others caved in. The voice cracks. Now you have an opportunity to fix your mistakes. Not at all, she says harshly. The dead will not return. Their homes are but a bird's nest. We ought to stay in shame, yet be of use. Redemption will never come, but if you have to climb higher. Basis is planning to destroy White Marshes next. How many villages does she need to destroy? React as if your neighbours have acknowledged their deeds, but everyone treats it like a secret. The youngest generation isn't even aware of what happened. The tree inside was painted with blood. There was no good cause behind any of this, she states matter-of-factly, but at the time my neighbours felt otherwise, threatened, desperate, betrayed and cornered. They lost their hamlet, merchants in the pact. I cannot justify what they've done, but they are not monsters. Basis is planning to strike White Marshes. You notice her surprised frown, but she doesn't respond. She leads you north, closer to the main road. And the younger generation doesn't even know. It was my ma, the elders from the cave. Last request before he left. I'll spare you Ma Ruff, he said, if you keep the children heart unstained until they reach a certain age. The forest speakers ought to help them find a lesson in your greed and cruelty. She stops in place, observing a red dotted mushroom. She crouches, digs it out with a knife, and puts it into a sack. And Thesis made the decision that this certain age would never come. I did not dare to oppose her. Our neighbours trusted her. What do I have to say about that? Do you really believe Thesis can stay, that she won't cause further harm? She stops and observes the carcass of a hedgehog. Judging by its tracks, it was butchered by a badger. It may be true that, so far, you have not added fuel to her plans. She crouches slightly, giving the shell a closer look. Ants, she says, then steps around it. My neighbours gained a lot from her past choices. My judgment means a lot to them, but she showed she will protect us, even if the price is too high. Okay, we already talked about her. You know how impulsive she gets. There must be someone else who can lead your tribe. Yet she's trusted for her wits and talents. Interrupted by a screeching bird, she seeks it among the leaves. The Thesis you have met is shaped by many sorrows, but her laughter has not always been as dead as it is now. Many of us owe her our lives, and since our gathering promised not to interfere with the choices of our neighbours. We took a step back, even when we realised her determination hides cruelty and stubbornness. No soul dares to oppose her now. How did she become mayor in the first place? Parents were adventurers. They stayed with us after a few grand journeys, bringing many treasures and sacks of dragon rings. Realizing the illness of her weak shell, they wanted for her a life of comfort without bloodshed. While others dug in soil or trained with spears, they taught her to count and read, and sent her with a caravan to Hovlevin, used their ties to squeeze her into the guild. But the war disturbed her learning. She returned and said she would protect us from the Southerners, as long as we trusted her, and she did, with poison and betrayal, but she saved all of us. She was ready to protect you in desperate days, I get it, but now her decisions can bring only destruction. You need to find another way. Her steps grow more confident. She nods in agreement. Even though it's strictly against the United Church's interest, I show her the letter to the guild. She wants to bring the rights missionaries to this place behind your back. She glances. I got an achievement called the Faithless. She glances at the parchment hanging from your hands, then looks at you, listening to your story patiently. The more you say, the shinier her eyes become, getting closer to venom-like green. Once you're done, she rubs her staff and looks at its tip, as if she's measuring it before a strike. I see. No matter her gestures, her words are filled with pain. You must be aware of how vengeful Glaucia is. She's going to seek a way to punish Thasus. If your village was to stand in her way, she would burn it to the ground. Her eyes are like a violent ocean wave. You must judge her. Even soon after the raid, she paid us little attention and traded with our hunters. She knows Thasus cannot be reached. You share what you've learned about her determination, and that her patience shouldn't be mistaken for forgiveness. She glances at the scouts and meets your eyes. I doubt she'll find a way. There's but a few lost souls by her side, yet I must agree, we may face a sore price for all the deeds we've looked away from. Aren't you worried about the future of your gathering? You grow in comfort, but from what I've seen you are detached from the teachings you shared with me, or the ones I've heard from the Altar Warden. You pay close attention, blah blah blah. These changes occur too fast for my heart. You know I'm trustworthy. I wouldn't try to sabotage your neighbours. She stops in place and turns towards you, holding her staff by her side. Her eyes are warm like a spring day, and she smiles gently. I trust you, and so do my neighbours. I cannot be sure what you're saying is true, but I doubt you're lying. What's your decision? Will you speak with the others? You approach a giant oak, older than any other tree in the garden. It's surrounded by trails of shoes and paws, yet is oddly quiet, even though there are dozens of birds in its crown, spread among the branches like the faithful in temple pews. Elpis reaches for the long claw marks left on the bark. He strokes them gently, makes a fist, and steps away. The cuts are now thinner, sealed like a wound, forming nothing more than a dark scar. Suddenly, the clamour of creatures tears the sky. You look up, but the singing, cawing, and twittering seems to have no cause. Some birds raise their heads, others make tiny jumps or spread their wings, but they uphold their choir for a good few minutes, long after you and your companions leave them behind. Let's go back. Thasus will not give us time to organize. I need to speak to my gathering right away, but I will be the one to speak with my neighbours. You're doing the right thing. I do what I believe will cure our village. Her voice is cold. Having a city folk's encouragement only makes me doubtful. Do not know your goals, but they at least seem to align with ours. On your way to the gate, you discuss the steps to come. Judging Amir and powers. No easy feat, not to mention seeking punishment for them or selecting their successor. The best you can hope for is that the locals will agree to hear your arguments and allow the druids to prepare a winter court. Most of what we have to discuss involves Steep House, and you are not needed for any of it, Elpis concludes. Get to it. It's an exhausting hour, and in the time you only say a few words. The amount of spite and reproach dwelling among the locals was hard to predict. It was not only the gathering who stood united behind Elpis, She knew exactly who should be asked to speak out, the souls held in melancholy and guilt for 10 years now, as well as those wounded during either the raid or the earlier or later events, many of which you have never heard before. Basis, accused of pointless violence and putting her pride above the well-being of her people, was calm at first, even eager to turn the entire case against you, but the trust you have earned and your familiarity with the raid's cruelty shielded you from her manipulations. Finally, it comes to a vote. For now, we see her as innocent but suspicious, announced the selected guard. The court and judgment will occur in the middle of winter. Until then, she remains our mare in name only. The crowd disperses from the islet. If Thesis could curse people with her gaze, you would only have a few breaths left. The others seem either puzzled or suspicious, whispering between themselves, pointing at you, at the druids, at the guards, at the inn. Still, in their voices you recognize more excitement than worry. What's going to happen with the village after Thesis' trial? Not an easy question. She may live with us as an honourable elder, or be sent into the woods with nothing more than a shirt on her back, like a traitor. Be acknowledged as a fair leader with good answer to our doubts. She rests her head on her staff and gives you a tired look. Whatever happens, our neighbours will take peace from it, knowing no one's above judgment. That's good. Thesis won't speak with me today. Oh, okay. Still on one piece, eh? Approaches the counter but can't hide his anger in his look. Yeah, okay. I feel like I need to wash up. Go to the Pal to the north. Still got 7 hours. I could get all the way to the Tribe of the Green Mountains in that time. Alright, Pal to the north. Go there first. Guard welcomes you with a nod. You ride in. The other hunters training with spears, yada yada yada. Head to the well. Wash my shell. Perfect. Step away. Get to the armourer. I don't need anything. Approach the guards. Nope. Into the inn. Let's talk to the innkeeper. Do you have anything you'd like to buy? Nope. Show me your wares. Already have a shield. Fine. Take another look at the main hall. Okay. Nope. Go outside. Alright, time to bugger off. Five hours, 15 minutes. 5 hours. Yeah. Yeah. Go to... Right, I want to stop by the giant on the way, so we'll go to the abandoned watchtower. No, we'll go to the secluded residence and rest there. This is a decent place to be, so we sleep. Take a big sleep. Alright, we go to the giant. Turn to the statue, try to awaken it. What do you do? Kneel. Rest your knees on the ground to show your respect and humility. Priest wouldn't be happy about this. Pray. You say a few words and your thoughts are unusually keen and focused, as if you entered a new stage of the ritual. You utter a complete short prayer, but nothing happens. You suddenly hesitate. This is not something Wright's followers are supposed to do. Don't care, I won't sabotage my journey now. As your head leans even lower, it feels heavier and your heart beats faster. I repeat the phrases in the old speech I was taught before. You place the blanket beneath your knees, you bow down on your head and stretch out your arms, reciting the strange sounds you've memorized, and which sound to you like a dragon's hiss. Sodal grazes on the grass, unmoved by your efforts. Long minutes go by. Tiny stars, white, blue, orange, and yellow, emerge from the dark cloak, one after another. Some of them grow in size and intensity, while many more stay dim. After a few moments, they move no more, and you get used to the hollow darkness remaining between them. It may take me hours, but I do my best to memorize everything I can about the signs presented on the statue. Try to get used to the curved surface of the cloak and the plenitude of distracting small dots. You manage to stay focused all the way through, getting it done in only half an hour. You spell out the position and colours of the larger dots from memory, and again and again. Step away, convinced you've got this. Seems like I'm done here. Okay, and now we can travel up to... yeah, we'll just go straight to the tribe. Oh yeah. Once said the only thing your tribe could use. Yep, sack of spices. Very well, take it. She gives you a few minutes to unpack your belongings. Let your beast stay on the grass. She pats its side. It's safe here. After you tether Sodal to a tree, keeping it away from most garden patches, you head to the cave mouth. The corridor goes down, getting darker after only a few steps, but seeing how often the locals go through it without any source of light, you doubt there's going to be any treacherous steps ahead of you. Still, your guide leaves the shed with a lantern made of old brass, with windows engraved with winged dragons circling around an erupting volcano. I grab my own crude lantern. The tongue sticking out of the entrance doesn't go on for long. For some time you descend gently, then encounter a set of spiral stairs. Once you reach the bottom, you find yourself in a labyrinth of tunnels and chambers. Some of them sunk in darkness, others lit by campfires, with smoke leading through holes in the ceilings. Spread among them are dozens of children and elders, but also workbenches and other spots worked by adults. Some of them are too busy to even spare you a look. There are woodworkers, water carriers, potters, flour millers, cooks. You hardly notice how stuffy the air is down here. Seeing the consistently spacious corridors, conveniently wide enough for even an obese shell to squeeze through them, you can't tell how many, if any, of the passages were not made by human hands. The entire walk takes you only a few minutes, but the sheer amount of rooms you walk by makes you lose your way many times. Before you reach a short path leading to a bright warm chamber, to which the Saurian rider invites you with a gesture. You smell smoke and humidity, and as you listen, the humming of a stream reaches you from below. Much louder are the cries of an infant, amplified by an echo. Put away my lantern and enter the chamber. The simple huts are short enough for you to see their hide-covered roofs from above, and as you look at the ceiling, there's no water dripping on them. They don't offer much privacy either, even if the entrances were covered with a curtain. The gaps between the bones let you peek inside. It's as if they one day collapsed here from the surface, losing their purpose, but remaining as a relic of the old way of living. While the huts are only filled with furs and a few pieces of clothing, the chamber is far from empty. A few women, some of them very young, some in their 30s or 40s, are sitting around a campfire, feeding infants or playing with toddlers. There's a man stretching a piece of leather on a tanning rack, and you hear splashes of water coming from a corner. When your eyes land on two people sitting in a wooden circle stumps, their gaze makes your destination clear. Get closer. They're sitting a few steps away from one another, and as you're invited to sit down, the three of you form a triangle. The air is heavy, but you smell no sweat or dirt, and aside from the crying child, the echoes of distant play and conversations, the dancing lights and crackling wood are no less cozy than the inn in the evening. The man in his 50s is leaning forward, resting his elbows on his thighs, more like a tired guard than a distinguished ruler. He's dressed just as heavily as the people you saw on the surface, but the fabric of his clothes is so dark blue that it's almost black. He's barefoot, and you wonder if that's enough to not make him sweat under the layers of wool. His helmet, shield, and sword are resting on the ground. His long grey hair freely surrounds his face, which is covered with wrinkles and scars. Some beast was lucky enough to leave a mark deeper than that. The man's nose is missing, leaving a disfigured hole. The woman could be 25 and has absent eyes and are roving over your outfit, equipment, face, and hands. She's dressed much more humbly than the man. Her tunic and pants are undyed and short enough to reveal her calves and forearms. She has unevenly cut short black hair and a yellow kerchief that's hanging from her neck, lazily thrown over her back. Her legs are stretched out in front of her, resting on the heels of her sandals and swaying left and right, spread just above an unfolded sack, covered with gemstones, pebbles, and animal bones. She keeps her hands on the nearest trunk, desperate for something to support her back. Both of them are unusually pale, but the woman looks almost sick. Introduce myself. We've heard that you know not our tongue, starts the elder with a firm look. But I've talked with city folk more than I wanted, and our shaman, he looks at the young person in a light outfit. I taught her what I knew, but knows little of the way you sound. Let her practice. She frowns and waves her hand in front of her nose as if she's a fly there. As if there's a fly there. Hello, her voice is both delicate and annoyed. Shaman Guyane. She struggles to utter. The man stares at you, speaking more confidently and with greater familiarity of the sounds he uses. And I'm Cephas, the chief of the tribe of the Green Mountain. Your gift bought you time, but we have busy lives. Try to get used to their dialect. Who sends you? Curiosity. I think about the words of the old druid. I'm a freedom seeker, a friend of the speakers of the forest. He straightens up, gives you a serious look. Then sit down with us and rest, for we've all found our freedom here. The shaman gives you both puzzled looks, but says nothing. May that freedom seeker be free of hunger and welcomed, he says to her, then addresses the woman sitting at the fire in the old speech. Soon after you sit down, an aromatic bowl of stew lands in your hands, warming them up. The chief and shaman also receive very small servings, accompanying you. Once the bowls are taken away, the gentle voice of Yan... Hang on, that's Guyane. Guyane? Guyane. Go with Guyane. Breaks the silence. Can't move mountains for you, but we listen and share. She moves for a few gems. She reaches for a few gems in various colours and puts them into a single row. That worked. Old Pagos, the village on the opposite side of the peninsula, was attacked by the plague. Cephas glances at the puzzled shaman and says a word in the old speech, causing her to gasp and switch the positions of a few bones. Then looks at you. Terrible, but we cannot do nothing. They have to endure it and would better not risk breathing their ear. Yan nods in agreement, even though there's sadness to her voice. Souls and tribes come and go, but the woods abide. For 10 years now, we have to let the lowlanders keep to themselves. I confronted Thasus about Steep House. Her village will soon be under new leadership. They look at you in silence. To me, Thasus is only a story. Yam speaks carefully. Story not of a leader, but of a tyrant. My cousin lost his life in Steep House, fell in love with a young druidess. Cephas looks at you with a sinister grin, or maybe his scars make you see it that way. He did nothing wrong, lived there and cut stones. Faceless beasts were always loud, and just like the real howlers, they ought to hang from a branch. Holy shit, dude. That's a fucking sick burn. Oh, gotta remember that one. Yen scowls at him, and even though she may be younger than half his age, he suddenly seems much smaller, crossing his arms. You're a good soul to make this happen. She looks at you again, now holding a small green gem. With her as chief, we were waiting for the wrath of the herds to fall upon them. Trying to find Asterion. He was here a few times. With every word, Self's voice gets quieter, as he's not quite sure how to continue. We helped him, but or he gave us a grand promise and a sign of his trustworthiness. Brought back a soul thought to be lost in the woods, but it's almost been a season since we saw him. What kind of person is Asterion? A shell lost on its path to nowhere. Yan stares into your eyes, a soul torn by its dreams, a word spoken to no one. The chief frowns but doesn't add anything. The Saurian I saw outside used to belong to Asterion, am I right? That's correct, Zephyr's approving eyes contrast with the threatening look of his nose, and his voice is warm. Where he was heading there was no place for a beast and doesn't swim well, so he asked us to look after it. And also he was afraid of the unicorns. After you mentioned that you doubt having fewer teeth would help someone deal with such a monster, Kian chuckles and bites her lower lip, showing her unusually long canines. You'd like to cut the skin of the spirit of Havoc? City folk think unicorns are but a battering ram, yet they are their own soul carriers, led by judgment, not anger. They eat grass and shoots, not flesh, and when not with cars, listen to kind tales and prayers. The chief nods. It was wise of him not to take with him a bloodthirsty Saurian. It won't learn when to bow, or it trusts only its own muscles and fear. Okay, but where did he go? Zephyrus runs his stern eyes over you, to a place that doesn't need another bloody city folk, our old home, High Island. The place we lost to the dragons of Hovlavin, and where we will return once the city's full. To Green Mountain, Gian adds with an excited whisper. When asked about the reason why the Roadwarden wanted to reach this place at all, the shaman struggles with finding the right words. He believed there was a key to his answers there, a link between the homes of our tribe and the oldest streets of Hovlavin, one so old they're deep beneath those you know of. I care not for any of that, the chief interrupts her. We agreed not to help him get to the caves carved in the volcano, in the heart of our homeland. Or he was meant to share with us whatever he sees or learns now he's lost. Okay, so a volcano. Ugh. And I'm guessing it's somewhere around the lakes? I'd like to learn more about your village. Shaman leans forward, smiling. The fire plays with her shadow. And how, in your tongue? About crossing our tunnels, or ploughing our fields, or battling with snowcats, or making a cup bowl with our elders. She gestures for you to take a glance at the huts, the spears and the rock beneath her. We have our own seasons, trades, and legends. Spirit guide us through dreams and thunders. Children learn stories older than emperors. As she grows more passionate with every word, the chief observes her with a smile. He reaches for his sword, observing the dark scabbard covered with a fancy pattern of squares. If we were a tribe of the 10 cities, you would like to hear at we dig for ore, grow crops, hunt, we lack Some things we have others in abundance, but we accept what we get, and won't open our gates to no merchants or blood we can't trust. Who's the decision maker, the chief or the shaman? The village decides for the village, Zephyr smiles. In the tribe, a chief worries about things of today and a shaman about things of past and tomorrow. Yan looks at him with respect. Well, there are harvests of the season, she says solemnly, but taste like ashes without memories and hopes. She points at the bones and pebbles beneath her, as if they're meant to explain it all. Quiet tune plays from the opposite end of the chamber in an attempt to calm that crying child. When we talk about High Island, we can, but no soul of our tribe has been there in generations. Even the gentle frown changes the chief's scarred face greatly. We won't return there while the cities remain a threat. How can I get there? Don't you know the tribe cuts any limbs at so much touch our homeland? The chief observes your hands while rubbing his own, dried and covered with scars. You want to turn it into a pyre for Ardens. The shaman's quiet voice is like a touch of dew. If you land there, bring us a Asterion or your own tale, Buta, or we will not forgive you. Her tone carries no questions, no request. She then gets off the stool, crouches above the fabric and grabs a few small bones. She arranges them into a curved line. The coast of High Island is tall as a ship. She doesn't look at you. Here is north, she marks it with white pebble, closer to Gale Rocks. A red rock, far away from the island. Swim here to Northern Waterfall. Her hands return to the island, placing a blue gem in what seems to be a corner. She meets your eyes, her voice starts to quicken, heedless of stumbling over words. At Waterfall hides a cave, an old harbour. Boat can't land here without high tide of the night. Why don't you want anybody to land there? What good would it bring us? The chief leans back as if there's nothing to talk about. After a few breaths, the shaman chips in. We'll enter the island like traveller returning to their bed. Eyes of the city folk see not our homeland, but their failed searches for iron. Eyes of other tribes see lost treasure not as our soil, sky and rains, but only as belongings to grab and sell. Our friends help us keep an eye on the island, and if anyone breaks our rule, we'll be ready to swim there to stop their greed. But it's no longer a home to any human soul. The island dangerous? Dangerous as the wild woods and hills. Its roads are no more, its spiders and apemen now live in our houses. The city folk who tried to take our lands may still be there, walking shells without souls, but after so much time they likely went after blood on the mainland. What's the story of the island? Yan smiles and starts to speak in the old speech, as if she's repeating the same tale for the 100th time, then chuckles. Once she shifts to city tongue, she struggles at some points, but Cephas provides her with words and phrases, or fills the gaps on his own. The Green Mountain, the life-giving volcano in the centre of the island, has been home to the tribe for longer than anyone can remember. As we're older than any of the 10 cities, though you doubt there are any ways to verify such a claim, Shaman spends a good few minutes describing the days of her ancestors. Through hardship, they managed to tame enough land to grow vegetables and made a great chunk of the island their forest garden. After finding the iron and copper veins, they had enough tools and weapons to save their offspring from back-breaking labour. She's also eager to describe the deeds of many families and heroes and the unique herbs with their beautiful names, but the chief asks her to move on. For most of its existence, Hovlevin avoided the island, finding hardships in getting close to it, and since the pagans were reluctant to accept dragon bones, the merchants saw little value in their wares. However, once the tribes of the peninsula noticed the growing supply of alloys used by the island folk in their fishes, the news reached the city. A little more than 200 years ago, the officials tried to negotiate a new trade deal with the locals, but to no avail. Finally, they allowed their corsairs to start their usual efforts, putting to use the growing height of their ships. At first, they harassed the fishers and then landed on the island itself. The tribe was ready to fight for what was theirs, but the cruelty they faced outmatched them. Kidnappings made the locals afraid to leave their walls, and then the raids enslaved whole hamlets or burned many crucial structures. Using traps and their knowledge of the terrain, the tribe managed to kill more than they lost. The Corsair ships kept coming, always led by new yet more experienced captains. After a few bloody battles, the forest fires started, and the locals understood they had little time before the wrath of the herbs would trample them to death. We are the 8th generation of the tribe living here, so close to the coast, yet so far from it. She ends her tale. Taming new grounds was harsh, but once the first children born in these tunnels started breathing, only a fifth of the tribe was still here to welcome them. Why don't you try to reclaim? The root of our torment survived the plague, the invasion, the disasters, now only known to the oldest tales. Gang grabs a small few bones from the fabric beneath her and starts to roll them beneath the palms of her hands. We have no strength to fight it, no hope to defeat it, but we can wait in humbleness and hope the spirits will turn their face away once our enemy come to them for help. Cephas rests a hand on his side. Returning would anger the herds and cost us dearly, yet after 1-2 generations, once our Warden children grow strong, he looks an infant being fed by the fire, the Corsairs will once again bring torches and chains, for their right allows them to murder freely. He utters the soul carrier's name with disgust. Leading our tribe to their homeland is the dream of every chief and every shaman, but it's a dream of the prideful. Something that can help me explore the island. Second generation that lived at this mountain knew would one day forget its homeland. Gaian pauses, observing a young woman adding wood to the fire. Built a statue of a spirit that protected us from the flames of the Green Mountain. I still hold the key to it. A map. Everything I want to ask. Alright. Anything you need help with as Roadwarden? Do we need your help? What do you think about Hov 11? We don't think about it. Cool. And that's a lot of words to say we don't think about it. Anything to sell? Chief Scoss, well, why, do you have something we may want? We don't have dragon bones, we don't trade, and we don't need what we have. We have the chum chips in, but then pauses, frowning. I mean horns. Then looks at you again. We could barter for it. Our guard and scouts use the horns of many beasts, but there is one type we don't use anymore. The war horn. Yan adds ominously, roars like a dragon. Chief smirks. That's right, most beasts flee when they hear it, but I can't show you how it sounds here, we'll go deaf. Can I see it? When blown, it imitates the roar of an enormous creature. Damn, maybe another time. Ugh. Reaching High Island. You found enough clues to believe that Asterion has travelled to High Island, northwest of the peninsula, and hasn't been seen ever since. You can only reach the island by boat, leaving the coast during the day and landing at night time during high tide. Chance that you're going to find him there on your own is slim. Need a boat and maybe a few friends or mercenaries. Alright, trying to think of who I could bring along for this. Go to Creeks. Ifrin will probably come with me. I need your help on High Island. Make us even. What am I, a fish? He emphasizes the question by grabbing his hat's jaw. I'm going to kill you if you let me drown. Salt water tastes like pee. Will you ask him how much he knows about the taste of piss? He raises his voice proudly. You have my word and I'll be ready to answer your call. You know any creatures that live on High Island? How could I? Alright, good luck. How much time do I have? I should have enough. A cabin. Okay, he's actually gone already. Okay. Yeah, let's go to Foggy Lakes then. Whew. Into the blah 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 blah. Sleep. Time to sleep. It's fine. Maybe we can go straight to High Island. Oh, I'm looking for a few souls to be willing to explore High Island with me. Stupid or what? Island Lumbar bursts into laughter. There are easier ways to seek death, and dragons aren't worth that shit. Civi, however, gives you a long look. Why? You briefly mentioned that you'll search for Asterion. Sounds like a waste of effort. He adjusts his cloak, but I'll do it. For pay, I'm good with knives. Sneaking by and making small things out of wood. The tall foragers straightened up and look at his companion in the eyes, demanding an explanation. The man in black fur waves it off. I'm bored of the inn, and I'd hate spending another winter in creeks. His voice carries a hint of an apology. Aye, we need no dragons, but I'll take him south behind hags. Distance between them grows with every breath. What's your price? Did well during our hunt, so I assume you know what you're doing. 10 dragons won't work for less, ever. Good at sneaking, yada yada yada. Let you know. Good. Okay. Walk away. Okay, so I do need to make some money then. Quick save and travel. Go to the peat fields, I guess. I guess maybe you could head down to Pell to the north. No, I didn't need to go to come to this ruined shelter. What am I doing? Travel. Peat fields. I'll speak of your failure, what do you want? Okay. Go with white marshes. Take a stroll. You leave Sol at the well and head between the turf houses, but you hear the heavy steps of one of the armoured guards. What's this? He places a hand on your shoulder and turns around, getting homely. Just looking around, I have dragon bones to spend, you know. He stares into your eyes and you catch a whiff of mint leaves. Finally, he takes his hand back. Well, we don't need him, and I don't allow strangers to live around. He nods at the gate and makes you follow. Stay in sight, Warden. Balin's... That's a ripoff. Okay, obvious. Pay you for 3 with 1 bone. That's all. What else do you need? I hate this place. I got burns to the ground. Holy shit. How much time do you have? 7 hours. Okay. We'll go down to Howler's Dell. I could leave for High Island from there, huh? I could ask Huntress to come with me, I guess. I could ask, I guess. I don't have time to talk. John faces his parchment, yells at you in silence and picks up a wooden brush from the wooden beam. Issue solved. The druid seek knowledge about High Island. There's a lightning in her blue eyes, and while the other druids give you suspicious looks, they say nothing. Well, she could teach you, but the truth is, she swallows, and you know there's a hint of shame in her voice. We do not know much about the place. There's but one forest speaker who carries this old tale, and is the elder living in the cave to the south. Ask him. I know where we can find Asterion, but my journey will be difficult. Once you tell her about the island, she puts her left index finger on her lips, thinking. You convinced us to stand against the mare, you assisted us in keeping our village safe from greed. You've protected us from the plague, even though you had to sacrifice the sacred fruit. We do not care for this man, but we see you as an ally and wish you well. Come and see me before you leave. My soul will heal your wounds and strengthen your shell. Okay, farewell. Make it down to the Elder's Cave, I guess. Need to learn more about High Island. His eyes widen. Come again. You move your lips slowly as you would repeat your question, and his look grows suspicious. Why would you head for that forsaken island? You explain briefly what you learned about Asterion. The elder listens patiently, but then straightens up and raises his voice. Even his accent gets thicker, as if he's repeating an old sermon. The feet of the living have nothing to find in these ancient woods and their ruins. 'Tis but a graveyard of a tribe long driven out, and their memories deserve to be either forgotten or shared by their descendants. He remains in the same position for another few breaths, then lowers his shoulders and scowls at you. City spies ought to forget it even more than most. Elpis asks you to tell me more about the island as a favour for her. He lets out a brief snicker. She thinks her cult can handle an even greater debt, even though I already left them behind so much. Despite his words, there's a sudden sadness hidden in his sky-blue eyes. I expect no stranger would ever find help at her side. Are you that much of a negotiator, or that much of a tool? He looks at the spring, not giving you time to answer. I'll think about her request. Look at my lips, I need to learn more. He looks you in the eyes, then nods slowly and enters the path heading down the hill. He gestures for you to follow him on his stroll. During his speech, he never glances at your lips and doesn't ask if you have any questions. Centuries ago, the great tribe used to live on High Island, hunting, farming, mining, fishing. He observes the pond as it gets continuously more muddy, prospering. The volcano, the Green Mountain, is naked since its last eruption a few years back. But wait another generation and the wilderness will cover it again. There's a sudden movement coming from the grasses on your right, but as you look in that direction you notice that a deer is just observing you, though at an unusually close distance. It is not my place to paint their suffering, but what is not a secret is how they've been treated by Helfloven. Join us or the sea will be taken away from you, they've heard. Corsairs had surrounded the island and attacked anyone on sight, waiting for the tribe to surrender. You can't cover the growing disdain in his voice. After a decade, the 10 cities breached the shore, tired of waiting. Cloaked by night, they crossed the walls that were raised to stop beasts, not human-shaped creatures. With farms burnt, supplies taken, and harbours destroyed, the tribe saw no future for itself. Yet, instead of bending to the will of the Emperor, they left on their last hidden ship, at least those who survived. He takes a deep breath. The city folk resettled the island, but they had no knowledge of it or of its weird seasons. Beasts and eruptions crushed them as they had crushed the previous dwellers. There was not a single soul that would gain from all this suffering. The man observes the bloody remains of a rabbit lying at the side of the road, and after maybe a minute nods for you to follow him back to his garden. To land there, you have to reach the island soon after dusk, when the sea rises. Only then you can reach the cave hidden behind one of the waterfalls. I do not know which waterfall it is. He observes you, making sure you're listening. and you'll do better by speaking with the tribe of the Green Mountain before you attempt it. It is their land, and you ought not to trespass. Took care of it already. I need a place to sleep. So be it. Cabin is austere, lit only by several candles. The corridor leading deeper underground is flooded. The air is humid, but free of mould and putridity, despite all the wooden furniture around. The man points at a bunch of brown and grey furs laying on the floor, mostly taken from boars and deer, though there's also an especially large one that belonged to a red and black bear. Feel free to pile them up. They should make for a soft bed. Just be sure to spread them around when you wake up. I need them to cover as much of the ground as they can. He also nods towards a wooden table where you see an array of expensive instruments made of glass, gold and copper. Bottles, scales, knives, alembics, mortars and a crucible. And if you do not know much about alchemy, stay away. It is expensive, a keepsake. If I find a single scratch on it, you will not be welcome to anymore. Look at the woman lying in bed covered by a blanket. She's more touched by time than the man. Her eyes are wide open and observe you with something between fear and curiosity. But when you make eye contact with her, she starts to murmur nervously and covers her head with the blanket. The man also notices her movement and strokes his beard when he sees you looking at her. That's my wife, and the best thing you can do is to ignore her. Her soul is shattered and her shell is weak. She no longer speaks. She was the owner of this table. You ask if she won't be bothered by your presence, and you see a sad smile. She will forget about you soon after she looks away, but she's dangerous in a way. If you keep your distance, she will not approach you, but when she's stressed, her powers take control over her, protecting a mad magic user. It's difficult to trap her. I nod. I won't bother her. Approach the flooded corridor. Take a candle, look down the corridor. It doesn't help much. It leads downwards. You see the spot where the ceiling touches the water. Mines often resemble labyrinths, and even if there's any sort of magic which would allow you to swim without air, the risk that you would lose your way back is too grave. Approach the alchemical instruments. Sleep. Ooh, that's fine. Wash myself. Good. Nice. Good. Happy with that. Alright, eat the food ration. Turn. Okay, let's do a full save. I want to see if I can get anybody from the Pale to the north. Then I'll head over to the fishing hamlet and see if I can get anything from there. Maybe Eudocia would help? Approach the guards. I could use a skillful hunter on my short journey to High Island. What? She chuckles, then matches your serious look. Tell me more. Share the gist of your plans as she's spreading the old stew on the ground. Her boar's great joy. Put safety above adventure, she finally responds, but there is a way you could convince me. What's your price? 12 dragons. We'll return later. Look at what. I don't have anything to sell. I'm actually really poor at the moment. The inn. Speak to the bandit. There's a way to pay off your debt. You'll assist me on a short journey to High Island. He glances at the exit, then scowls at you. You helped me just to kill me like that. What do I need to take? You explain your plan briefly, which is greeted by his resigned shrug. Fine, I'll wait for you here. I must say, you don't look like a regular bandit. He looks puzzled. What do I look like? Handsome. He looks at you in silence, then allows himself a chuckle. I don't know. Thank you, I think. Many handsome folk are ploughing the fields. They just don't have the right time to shave. His blue eyes get brighter. Well, I'm a new soul now. Glaucia is pushing things too far, too much, and I want to stay on a ship that's heading for the rocks. Left before we turned into naught but murderers. His fingers are getting pale from clutching the dagger's handle. Okay. So, maybe Eudocia will come with me? I doubt it though. Eudocia? Yeah, it is Eudocia. Have you ever heard of High Island? Yada yada yada. You wanna ask Foggy she loves? Okay, cool. That's wasted time then, so we'll instead travel to the fishing hamlet. I think Asterion sailed to High Island. Do you know anything about it? She opens her mouth, but needs a few breaths to speak. He left like that, without a word, to that death trap. She raises her bow and points it in the northwest. You can see the island from here. It's not easy to get there, even on a boat. When you mention you would appreciate any tip that could help you survive there, she moves her lips left and right, humming to herself. Not seen it myself, but I heard that when the winters are at their darkest, the water from here to there is all frozen, and even a big beast can get there on their paws. Seeing your puzzled look, she explains. The creatures there are not too different from the ones we have here. The more you learn about them, the more prepared you'll be. Before you change the subject, she lets out a huff. I do hope you bring him back. And use your help on the island. Your curiosity grows as you describe your plan, and you think he may still be alive, truly. After your vague nod, she straightens up, raising her bow in salute. You helped me already, so it's only fair for me to join you, and if you've not a boat yet, you can use mine. Time for me to leave. So if I quick save, travel. The boat awaits you at the coast. You need to take exactly 4 people with you, and so far 3 souls would be willing to join you. To prepare the crew, you need to start preparations in the morning before leaving. Better make sure you're well prepared to face the unknown. Okay, I can take 3 with me. So I need some money. Okay. Need some money to hire some people. Good. Got 14 days, and that's where I'm going to call the stream. Jesus, getting late. Okay, thank you for watching. My voice is slowly giving out. My eyes also. Tomorrow we have Grandia. So yeah, look forward to that. Something with a bit less reading, I guess. Bye bye.